Hey everyone, immediately after purchasing this GE Profile 2-in-1, I knew there was something wrong. First noticed in the dryer filter, I saw a lot of blow-by going around the filter, and I could only wonder what that would have done to the heat pump that it's supposed to protect. Looking inside after a few loads, it was evident that there were going to be problems. Remediations were soon underway with vacuum cleaners and brushes to try and remove that accumulation, but you're only really getting what's up front and not addressing the whole issue. And this was shown to be so bad, in fact, that nothing would collect in the middle of the filter, only on the sides and the ends, taking the path of least resistance when we washed Lily's bed. So after 6 months, I made a video where I tore down the entire machine to see exactly how much accumulation was in there and the best possible way to clean it out. What I found was worse than I hoped for, but kind of what I expected. Though I was surprised at the amount of moisture accumulating on the left side of the filter that was causing all this buildup here. It was not something that I expected, nor was it visible from inside the machine when it was closed. The drum visible on the bottom of this hole tells me that a brush can simply be pushed into this area left of the filter, because doing so would most assuredly drop all of that hardened lint into the outside of the drum. Panning over to the right, we can see all of the accumulation caught in the fins here for the heat pump because of the blow-by of the filter. This quickly reducing the efficiency of the heat pump and possibly causing damage to the machine, requiring repairs or at a minimum a lot more electricity and time to dry your clothing. And it wasn't just the front fins, all this dust and debris permeated through all of the fins to the rear of the heat pump. The only logical solution, of course, was to start cleaning up everything within the heat pump area, including lint removal from the left-hand side, scrubbing the enclosure to remove any residual dirt, and then carefully washing all the fins with a pressurized bottle and demineralized water to remove all these contaminants that were stuck in there. The belief, of course, that this clean water would capture all the dirt, bring it down to the drain under these fins, and deposit it at the bottom by the pump where they'd be removed from the machine. However, by the third 6-month interval of cleaning out this machine, I noticed that a problem started to form with this method. Immediately upon cleaning, water started to pool here on this plastic area and then make its way down towards the hole to the drum below. Something else is wrong. It hadn't occurred to me that the filter was letting so much blow by that it might be impacting this drain hose here for the heat pump. And if you're first hearing this now, your hose is probably plugged. I started off with taking a very large towel and pushing it down in this corner section just below where the hose is going to be detached. And here's the hose as I had removed it. Gallons of water came out when this hose was detached. But only after I removed this monster from the line, the thing nightmares are made of. This was all the blow-by that was draining into the drain, slowly plugging that hose and stopping water from draining from the heat pump. Once I removed that disgusting plug, I proceeded to clean the fins again. The water was no longer accumulating, and what this also allowed for was clean water to make its way to the drain and flush out any remaining debris. As I pushed the hose down, we could see water come out into the towel. I did this several times till I was assured that the hose was completely unplugged. It's unfortunate that that section of hose is corrugated where it could trap so much debris. Then, just to be sure, I took a brush on a line and pushed it down the hole to check and make sure there wasn't any obstruction here, which there wasn't, because this falls into a wide open space. With the spring clip back on the hose, it's ready to be attached to the machine. The direction of the hose set by those rubber guides and the metal clip back over the bottom of the hose, it is secured. Of course, the rest of the cleanup and maintenance is completed as discussed in my maintenance breakdown video. With everything clean and the ability to drain water, the machine's performance will be significantly improved. That slow draining water from above made its way to the pump after the pump had completed pumping out water, which means a lot of residual water would start to smell, and that smell would work its way back into your machine, so it's important to clean the bottom filter as well. These 4 holes below around the outer seal are very important to keep clean. We can see that I've pulled a lot of this debris out, and that should help with the draining around the seal so that it doesn't get all sorts of mildew and stink. You might find if you haven't cleaned yours that these holes are completely impacted. I used a pick to gently pull all the hair and debris forward where I could collect it, and then a paper towel wiping against these holes will remove any of the residual hair that's there. That nastiness from above would spill back into the drum as I mentioned earlier. We'll address this in a little bit. But right now we'll take a close look at why this filter fails, installing it in the machine while the machine is open so we can have a look. It slides on these tracks and meets this surface right here. This is where it stops when the machine is fully assembled. From here it's easy to see why so much dust escapes out the back. Look at this gaping hole. The filter was clearly designed to be longer, and then they made it shorter, for reasons unknown. This is a major issue. There's also no sealing on the top or bottom. So from the very first time you run your machine, lint gets through all of these holes, clogs up these fins right here for the heat pump. In turn, the drain for the heat pump fills up with this lint and clogs, so there's no more draining from up top. Accumulating with lint and natural occurring humidity, the drain blocks up, causing the water from the heat pump to back up right here in the filter section instead of draining down below. The very water you're trying to remove from your clothing ends up dumping right down through here into this hole and back into the machine, effectively watering your clothes as you dry it. That's why the dryer takes longer and longer. And with all the heat and moisture up top, people are seeing situations where their humidity is showing maximum, and that's because the humidity sensor is right over here to see when your clothing is dry. It'll never be dry because it's a sauna, so it'll just keep on running, and people will call up a repairman to have this looked at. Again, coupled with all this, because the water slowly drains down to the drain instead of being evacuated by the pump, it starts to rot in here and stink like sewage, which permeates up to the drum, which is why your clothes smell and don't dry or take a very long time to dry. All of these problems are rooted in the faulty filtration design. Help out this channel by letting me know in the comments below how long you've had your machine, what type of maintenance you do on yours to mitigate these problems, what kind of repairs that you've already had conducted on your machine to keep it going. And please take a moment to hit that like button down below. It helps me out a lot when you do. I do want to remind everyone that after doing a cleaning procedure like this, especially with all that filth, we should use their recommended cleaning procedure, which is 1 cup of chlorine bleach, right into the machine, just like that. I'll fire up the unit. Once it comes on, I'll press that self-clean button on the bottom right, tell it that I've cleaned out the filter, hit select, and then I'll hit start. This is not only going to clean out the drum, but that nasty drain that filled with all of that water for so long as well. When this finishes, we'll continue. I'll show you how I remediate my filter. I've removed all the stripping so I could show it being installed again, using a heavy foam tape weather stripping, which I will provide a link for below. This will be used for the rear of the filter. This brought out, for example, should not be used. That heavy piece of foam I bring to the back of the filter, and I want it to be just the same height as the filter itself, so I'll size it up, give myself a little bit more, and then cut it with a scissor, refining it later. But right now, I'll remove the backing and press it evenly onto the rear of this filter housing. I'll tell you right now that in my opinion, the predominant amount of blow-by is coming from the rear. This does a very good job in reducing it substantially. Obviously, I've tested all this before I've made my video. Once installed, I'll make sure it's even and then push it down so it stays in position. I then want to make sure that the length of this is equal to that of the filter. I don't want it too long that it would snag on something. Here I'm using a razor blade to remove the excess, but a scissor works just as well. I then press it down on the counter like this and measure if there's any excess left. I'll remove it, and pushing it down also helps seat that sticky pad on the top just a little bit better. The foam on the back is good because it's a compression seal, so it's designed to be squeezed and pressed in a position. A little harder to push the filter in now that there's some resistance, but it doesn't hurt anything. You just have to give it a little extra force than last time when it was loosely fit. And as I take it out, we can see that it does conform to the back of the unit. I'm adding the seal that you shouldn't use to the top and bottom, if only to demonstrate. And this is where I would be putting the final seals, just like that. Cut the end to size, and then on the other side, cut the end and I'm going to remove the plastic film. The problem is with these seals is they're meant for compression fit and not friction. So while it may look good, when you actually apply it and try and push this into the machine, that's about the only time the seals are going to go in without destroying themselves. Because we'll see, as I pull it out, they tear up on the bottom. For one load, we did leave the top seal in, having removed the broken bottom one, and kept the back one, of course, because there was no issue. Because I just want to see what the pattern looked like after one load. We can see the pattern is more centralized with the sealing. However, this area here on the bottom, as well as the rear up top, still allowing blow-by. Makes you wonder, though, with that getting by, with these seals in place, just how bad it was before any seals were there, and how much slop there is in this filter tray. Again, this was not the correct seal. I just left it on here for this example. I will be removing it and replacing it with the correct seals. A look inside shows very little, if any, got by that I can see, but I know some got by. We have room to improve. Here we have now a brush seal. This is a friction seal as opposed to compression. We can see those little brushes, and this should work a lot better for us on the top and bottom of the filter. This one's a compression seal. We'll leave that one alone. Installed in the same place in the same manner as previously, these ones should work quite well at 3/8 by 3/8, though some people may find the seal a little bit big with regard to the amount of resistance required to push the filter in. I do want to see, however, how well this 3/8 seal does at holding back the lint and the dust. So we're going to run one load with it and see how it turns out. Same thing on the bottom, though a much wider seal should work a lot better in the machine than the one we used before. It sure looks good. When I put it in the machine, I can immediately tell there's a lot of extra resistance, obviously owing to the seals, but I can't get it all the way in. Seat's good. Most importantly, when I go to pull it out, the seals are not damaged because they're designed for this type of task. So they're still in good condition, albeit more resistance to install in the machine and remove from the machine. However, I'd like to give this one a go to see how much of the lint is held back and what kind of pattern we have. So we're going to give it one run at 3/8 by 3/8 for the top and bottom seal. Our first run will be a towel run, and we're expecting lint, obviously, with towels, but nothing crazy, nothing like washing pet beds or stuff like that. Now that it's over, we're going to pull it out and see what we've got. And there's definitely resistance pulling out this filter, so I have to exercise caution, of course, and remember that that's the case. But once it comes out, we'll have a look, and we see that the lint forms there on the corners is definitely more centralized, but nothing really blew past at all, right? So we see stuff on the top and bottom. That bottom area always seems to collect the heaviest matter, which is interesting, but that doesn't matter because it doesn't get past. If we look at the seal, we'll see that the seal is white. There's no dirt or anything that came past it. So this held everything back. Definitely worked. Was a success. We can see stuff caught right up here in the switch, but doesn't make it to the other side. That's what we're looking for. Having a look inside the machine, we can see that dirt forms to the left of the track. What usually would have been sucked into the machine is now held at bay right there. And obviously, because of that, we're going to have to brush it out. That area in the back, notorious for collecting dust and dirt, is visibly clean, and nothing appeared on the right side. It's like brand new. So this test was a success, albeit a thick seal. The towels, of course, are dry, and they dried in a good amount of time. I did hear the pump drain as it was drying, which is what we're hoping for. But we could see that this seal really deflected once being in the machine, so it may be too long. There may be a point of diminishing returns here. We could dial it back a little and try again. Before swapping it, though, I ran one more load full of blankets, which produces absolutely the worst amount of lint possible. I'm pretty confident that these seals were holding, so I felt it was safe. Let's have a look. An unbelievable amount of lint collected, not at maximum capacity, almost there. We see that amount of heavy stuff in the corner, more stuff on the top left. But what's interesting is even though all of it got right up here, none of it made it past the seal. Zero. The seal is white. We would have seen the smallest amount of debris if there was. Bottom tells the same story. Right up to the beginning of the seal, we see debris, but nothing made it past. So this seal, even though it's a bit too large, is an absolute winner. We're going to go with a smaller seal and see how that works. The increased pressure from the lint is having an effect on the lower portion of the back seal, as we see, so we're going to take a closer look at that later. Of course, once again, we're going to get debris to the left of the seal, so we're going to have to clean that out with our brush. But we're just cleaning the left side, not the fins. So I go from the top and I spin, come all the way down from the back, and it all comes out in one shot. Trying a second time after I clean the brush, and on that second go, we can see the brush had captured on the first go. Nothing comes out. It makes you wonder how much that lint would have gotten through without the seals. It's worth noting that the seals did not come off easy. It means the adhesive sticks really well, as long as that plastic surface is cleaned before you apply it. Looking at the size of the seal we just used versus the replacement that we're going to test now, applied in the same exact fashion, this is slightly smaller, 9 millimeters in thickness with a 5 millimeter height. The height being the big difference over the last one. It's shorter, but we're going to find out if it's still equally effective since the last one was so tall. That would make this one, in fact, more practical for the everyday user if it's equally effective. I personally didn't really have a problem with the taller seal, but again, it's just a matter of opinion. Okay, things are looking real good. I'm going to head over to the machine. The first thing that I noticed, even with the brand new seal, it's not hard to push in. Just a very slight amount of resistance you would expect from a good seal. Seats fully with no issue. Pulling it back out now, I'll inspect it. I'm not expecting any problems. And we can see, yeah, it deflects ever so slightly. So it probably is making a perfect seal, but we're going to find out as we have a whole bunch of cat blankets that probably have a lot of hair and dust and whatnot in them. We're going to run it now with that. So we're going maximum on bulky bedding with the dryer. And this presents a worst case scenario for this machine with regard to lint. We can see how much collected, almost completely covering, except for little tiny patchworks going across this way. The pressures are so high in this case to try and pull air through. But we could see that the seals on the top and bottom held up. Nothing got past there. Talk about this in a moment right at the ends. But as far as that seal, we can see again, perfectly clean and nothing got through. Let me show you what went wrong as the pressure built up, or the suction built up for that matter, with this seal, because the top portion gets compressed because inside it is a shorter distance, but this one just sort of sits inside there and it doesn't compress. So air was able to slowly get through with lint on the seal because there's nothing pushing it to the filter, and it detached. We could see some lint under there. So we're going to have to fix this. Again, this is an absolute doomsday scenario for this machine. Most of your drying would not produce this much lint, but I have to address all scenarios. So I'll pull off that old piece of foam, and I'll install a new piece as I did before, except I will let it sit to the height of the other seal instead of flush with the filter casing, just a couple millimeters taller on each side. Then a piece, 10 millimeters, will be added, lined up to the foam on the bottom, and then press fit. Once this 10 millimeter piece connects and I push down, it is going to be stuck there. There'll be no way to adjust it. It's permanently fit. Then I'll round this corner ever so slightly so it doesn't catch. I slide it into the machine and there are no issues because it's just filling an extra void, so the resistance didn't change any. At least not any that I noticed. I'm going to pull it out now. And there's no damage, but I do want to cut a little line on the top and bottom so the track goes in without wearing down the seal. And that should be it. It goes in even easier now. We'll have a look as I pull it out and see what the seal looks like. That'll work out just fine, just like that. It'll all compress together in the machine. Now, a lot of people may be asking, wouldn't it be a better idea just to put this seal inside the back of the machine instead of on the filter? And the answer is absolutely. I think it would be superior, but most people aren't going to be able to open up their machine and split the cases to put in these seals. So if you are, that's something you may want to investigate. Or you could order the seals and ask a service tech to install them after servicing the machine and cleaning everything out. That's a possibility too. But this is looking good. Again, that was an extreme case to produce as much lint as possible but we were finally able to break that seal. Still, I want to cover all bases. Funny thing, I put it on a test, just dryer time. It ran for about half an hour, and it pulled more lint out of the machine. There was no clothes in there. I just ran dryer just to test this seal. In 6 months, I'm going to reopen this machine, and we're going to investigate how much lint has accumulated with these seals in place. I will then install the rear seals on the back of the unit. But that concludes this video on what causes problems on these GE 2-in-1 profile washer dryers. I hope you found this video enjoyable, entertaining, and informative. Do me a favor, hit that like button down below, helps me out a lot when you do, and hit that subscribe button to be informed of more videos like this when they come out. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Would you like to reply?